This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace. Can there be a more beautiful setting for a city than the sliver of land between mountain and sea where you'll find Vancouver? One of those rare treasures of a city where one can, at least theoretically, snow ski, sea kayak, and play a round of golf all in the same day. But as you explore its island inlets and its urban canyons, you'll find a city that is much more than just an idyllic natural setting. Vancouver is a modern, multicultural, ever-evolving city that is just begging to be explored. Vancouver is served by Vancouver International Airport, or YVR, which is located just to the south of the city. This is Canada's second biggest and second busiest airport, with services to cities all over the world. You know, I admire this airport's commitment to simplicity. There's really just two terminals, domestic and international, and they both do exactly what they say on the tin. But interesting little tidbit for you. If you're flying to the US, you must clear US Customs and Immigration before you board, so make sure you leave enough time to get that done. Also, if you're arriving into Vancouver and you're connecting to another flight, you still have to go through immigration, collect your bags, and then connect to your flight. So make sure you leave enough time between your flights to do that. But no matter if you're arriving in this wonderful city from Toronto, Tampa, or Taipei, once you're finally outside and breathing in this beautiful BC air, you have a number of options for getting into and around Vancouver itself.
In, out, and around.
You don't get to talk. There are, of course, taxis as well, which will get you into town in about 30 minutes for around 25 Canadian dollars. The taxi ranks can be found just outside of baggage claim, and all journeys to downtown Vancouver are charged at a fixed fare based on zones. Signs at the airport will tell you the fare you should expect to pay for your journey. Oh, and don't forget to tip. The patriotically named Canada line on the SkyTrain is the only direct service of public transport that will get you into central Vancouver proper. But it's a quick 25-minute journey that'll cost you $9, and that includes the $5 airport surcharge. You can buy your ticket from the vending machine inside the station, which is just across the street from arrivals. And speaking of the SkyTrain, Vancouver's main rapid transit system connects downtown with the southern and eastern parts of the city. The system's 3 lines cover large parts of Vancouver, but cross several ticketing zones, so be sure to have the right ticket in hand. But before you do that, may I strongly suggest you get one of these, a Compass card, Vancouver's stored value transit pass. Now the great thing about these is not only can you use them on the SkyTrain, buses, the C-Bus passenger ferry, and the West Coast Express commuter rail service, you can pass between those services absolutely seamlessly, and you'll get a discounted fare over the regular cash fare, so well worth getting one of these bad boys. You can grab a Compass card from any of the vending machines at SkyTrain, C-Bus, and West Coast Express stations, as well as from many convenience stores. When you have your trusty card, just tap in at the beginning of your journey and tap out when you've had enough. If you don't feel like buying a Compass card for whatever reason, you can buy single journey tickets from one of these handy vending machines. Just press the buy single ticket button. You can get it for one zone. That's good for 90 minutes only. After that, it expires. One zone, $2.95. You take debit cards, you take credit cards, and you're on your way. If you're on a bus, you can buy them from your friendly bus driver, but cash only. Alternatively, you can use a contactless credit card, Apple Pay, or Google Pay right at the turnstile. Note though, you cannot use debit cards, nor will you get that sweet Compass card discount. For sheer breadth of coverage, Vancouver's bus system is hard to beat. You can buy a ticket on board, but note that's only good for buses, no other form of transport. Or you can simply use your Compass card. Just tap in on the reader when you board the bus. Now, all of this is important because despite promises from the city and much to the chagrin of many of the travel-based businesses in the city, there are no ride-sharing services in Vancouver. No Uber, no Lyft, no nothing. So get familiar with the city's public transport system because you're gonna need it. But hey, at least you get to ride cool little mini boats around the city. I mean, where else can you do that? Perhaps a more unusual way to get around the greater Vancouver area, or at least get a unique perspective on this ultra-photogenic city, is by seaplane. Harbour Air operates scheduled services to 12 destinations around the area, as well as scenic tours. So for an airplane nerd like me, you had me at seaplane. Over 40% of Metro Vancouver's residents are either Asian or of Asian heritage. That makes Vancouver the most Asian city outside of Asia. At Torafuku, just on the edge of the city's Chinatown, Chef Clement Chan is infusing local ingredients and standards with Asian flavors to create something unique, something different, something delicious.
There's so much competition and so much variety, at least like Asian cuisine. I was like, why just, make it Chinese, right? Like, let's spread it out, right? So we turned it to modern Asian, and I think the creativity level, it just gave us a little bit more room to play with.
He isn't lying. The menu at Torafuku is as ingenious as it is eclectic. From sprouts and wings to foie gras and dashi, the combination of flavors results in some breathtaking dishes. That's like nothing I've ever eaten before. And the guiding philosophy behind the menu is just as clever as the menu itself.
More local, organic, sustainable ingredients, using local farmers and stuff, but putting an Asian spin on it now. So when you get the dishes, I would say 90 to 80% of them look more local or West Coast, but when you eat it, it's all Asian flavors. Yeah, it's like pow in your face. It's like, okay, I see it.
Just across the water from Torafuku on the rejuvenated Granville Island is another great example of colliding culinary cultures. Created by 4 superstars of the Vancouver food scene, Popina, a storage container cum kitchen, is a platform for the chefs to create some truly original flavors. Each of the 4 chefs has put their mark on each of the dishes. So you can almost see, as you taste each dish, oh, that's got to be coming from Chef A. The salad has got the Japanese-German influence, and then the lobster roll, and then the humble squid. It's such a great idea. It works so well. It's so indicative of this part of Vancouver, of what Granville Island was, is, and is going to be. This is amazing. I'm going to keep eating it. Incredibly, there was more. I was ambushed with this beauty. Well, oh my God. What is it? What's it called?
Puff cream.
Puff cream. Oh my God.
22.
So we just had a chat with one of the chefs about this, and apparently the ice cream, which they make in-house, has such a high fat content, which is a good thing, that it was breaking the machine that dispensed it. They were pushing it beyond its physical limitations to create something wonderful, which is exactly what this is. This is dripping all over my hands. But there is one more Canadian culinary experience that I am, for better or worse, inexorably drawn to on every visit to this wonderful country. Canadians, fun fact, eat more donuts per capita and have more donut outlets than any other nation on Earth. So it does feel a bit odd to come to Canada and not go to Timmy's or Tim Hortons for some Timbits. They are, by law, required to be every 100 feet in every major city in Canada. So you cannot walk, 100 feet without finding a Timmy's. Is it good? Is it good? Are they good? I like them. The Timbit is a wonderfully Canadian experience. The donut hole, the Timbit. Savor them. I made up the bit about every 100 feet. It feels like a good sign when even a city's bird community has a refined palate. These enterprising chaps collect mussels from the shoreline and drop them repeatedly on the dock to break them open and feast on the deliciousness inside. It seems it's impossible to come away from this city hungry. This episode of Attaché is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or online store, make it with Squarespace. I've been a Squarespace user and fan for years. In fact, my personal site at alexhunter.org is built using Squarespace and is always up to date because with Squarespace, I never have to install, patch, or upgrade. The Attaché website, also built using Squarespace, including, and this is such a great feature, the online store, which makes it so easy for us to sell the Attaché book, keep track of inventory, manage orders, all in one place. Anyone can build a website on Squarespace. All you have to do is head to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to unleash your awesomeness on the world, go to squarespace.com/attaché and save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Vancouver is generally a very, very safe city. A sensible and pragmatic approach to law enforcement means as a visitor, you're rarely going to run into problems. But as a city of this size, and anywhere in the world, there are places where you're probably going to want to avoid. So common sense is your weapon of choice here. Make those good choices, avoid dark alleys, things like that, and you're going to be absolutely fine in Vancouver. Unless you're buying real estate, which is an entirely different story, Vancouver, especially for a city of its size, feels very affordable. Eating, drinking, getting around are really not that bad at all. And there's not a huge deviation in prices between touristy areas and non-touristy areas. So from that point of view, this is a very accessible city. And on that note, let's do the rundown. A cup of extremely hot Timmy's coffee will cost you around $1.80. An oddly shaped glass of beautiful BC beer will cost you around $6. How am I supposed to hold it like this? For the most reliable indicator of a nation's cost, the good old Big Mac, you're going to pay $5.69, or about £3.30. Let's talk about tipping because it is a thing here and it is almost identical to the US system, I'm afraid. As someone very diplomatically put it to me here, it is customary and expected. Around 12 to 15%, at least 20% if you've had a particularly good experience. The one thing that makes the Canadian system better than the American system is that when you're paying with a credit card, the terminal is brought to you, first of all, which is like the rest of the civilized world. But you'll be able to tip right on the machine, selecting either a percentage of your total or a fixed amount that you enter. And you can enter the percentage or the total, which makes the whole thing much, much easier. But it is a thing, so tip. It's easy to fixate on Vancouver's almost impossible natural beauty and surroundings. But this city's real treasure is found in the people who make it work, who make it run, who make it what it is. Vancouver is the definition of a multicultural city, and its proud population of just over 2.5 million are a fiercely friendly, welcoming, and generous people, never shy with a smile or a friendly tip. So let them point you towards their favorite donut, dive bar, or dim sum. In Vancouver, it's pretty much impossible to go wrong with any of them.